Hey everybody, today I'm taking a look at Mafiozoo, which is a board game designed by Rudiger Dorn and published by Super Meeple back in 2017. This is an area control style game for 2 to 4 players that takes around 60 minutes to play. The board of Mafiozoo is going to look something like this, which is divided into 2 pretty distinct sections. The first section is going to be this little town map here, where it's going to be a big way you're going to get points by trying to get into these different buildings. So as you can see here, to get to this kind of racetrack, I'm going to have to get a gun token and a ring token in order to get 5 points at the end of the game. And also all these different buildings add some kind of engine building benefit to them. For example, this one here, at the start of each round, I'm going to get 2 money, or you can end up getting like more resources, new cards, new powers and different things as well. And as you can see here as well, this kind of road system is important because you have to start by claiming buildings from the outside and build inwards by following the road. So you can't just spawn here out of nowhere. You can have a bunch of these tokens here which come in these different kind of sets, and that's going to be where you're going to get points. So for each of these you're going to get points at the end of the game, and also if you have the majority in each of those sets, then you're going to have an additional point, and there's always going to be 5 face up available to you and the rest of them are face down. You can kind of pick which ones you want to take. Additionally, there's going to be a bunch of resources which you're going to be trying collecting, such as these blueprints, these mafia boss tokens, alcohol, guns, etc. And the bottom part of the board is going to look like this, where you're going to be trying to beat these different areas by trying to influence these characters and be the majority player in those areas in order to get the particular bonus by controlling them, such as getting these tokens in order to get into the buildings, getting money, because money is going to be quite a big way to do other things. You can see here this character offers money, drawing more cards and all that different stuff, which we'll touch on a bit later. Then each player is going to get given a 5 cards to start with, and also a bunch of these gems. So you see the yellow player's got this gem, and you've got like a personal supply of gems, and you've also got gems that you can end up bringing into your supply by sacrificing turns. So the game is going to be divided into 4 rounds, and each round you're going to draw one of these boss tokens out, which shows where the mafia boss goes. You can see here I drew this vulture card, therefore the boss is going to go on that vulture location like so. And that's going to be a particularly valuable location to go to this round. And you can also see that all the different cards here come with a particular money value, which is going to get distributed to the players depending on the card that was drawn. So you're going to get a nice little cash injection of 4 money. And then you'd go into any kind of previously unlocked buildings that you've got, again taking money, taking gems, all that stuff. But we'll touch on that a bit later because this is technically going to be the first round that I'm explaining. And the gameplay is going to work by playing cards from your hand here. So you've got kind of 2 different types of cards. You've got ones with very specific locations on, like this, with the matching number. So you can see here this orangutan driving this van is on location 6. Therefore the location 6 is going to be the orangutan driving the van. But you've also got these wild locations like this, which can be any location at all. And this is going to be important because the ones with the people on, or very specific locations, you're going to be able to start with by placing 3 gems on those locations, whereas these wild ones you can only ever place 2. And the way this works is very similar to a game like Istanbul or Genoa, or even a game like Robber Knights, which is a mechanism that Rudiger Dorn is known for. So let's show, for example, I played this one here. This number 9 with this bulldog on. I would put my 3 tokens on it like this, and then what I can do is I can leave it like that, or I can actually choose to spread out going down these different kind of connection points. So I could say go to this one, and then from there I could go say to this one if I wanted to. So it has that kind of, again, that Istanbul system where you can deposit things on the way. Now you don't have to do that. You can leave 2 there if you wanted to, or you could even leave all 3 here, or leave 2 there and 1 there. But that card you play is going to be the starting point. Now the idea here is, again, you're trying to control these different regions, or at least get some kind of investment in those locations, because all these different locations can provide a bonus, and the way they provide those bonuses are based on different ways. So there's 3 different ways you can get them. So this one here, when it says the first, it means that if you are the majority, or the person with the majority of those gems on that particular location, then you're going to get the bonus. So in this example, you'd get to take a gem and then to put 2 gems onto this character. Some of the locations will have a monetary value on them like this. So what that would mean is, let's say, let's just show an example here, say the yellow player had 2 on there, the blue player had 1 on there. So what you're going to do is the first player who's winning, the yellow player here, because they got the 3 to 1, are going to get that bonus and not have to pay anything for it. But they'll take their gems and put it back into the kind of general supply. Anybody else who's got at least 1 gem in there can choose to pay the amount of money here in order to get that bonus as well. So again, they could pay these 3 money in order to get one of these alcohol tokens, but then they'll take their gem and put it back into their personal supply ready to be used again. So it's quite interesting about balancing how much you can spend and also managing your kind of intake of gems as well, because an alternative option you can take by not placing gems on the board, you can actually choose to forsake one of these cards in order to take, say, 3 or 2 gems from the supply back into your personal supply to keep you playing. And the third different type you can get is this one here, where you just need to have at least this many gems to get that bonus. So in this crocodile person here, if you have 2 gems up there at the end of the round, then no matter how many people do it, then you can all take 5 money from the bank. And that's how they work basically. So as I said, you're going to be taking money, taking locations, and potentially drawing these bonus cards, which can impact and influence locations after everything's been distributed. And that's pretty much it. Some of these locations as well, again, will let you take these tokens from the supply for additional points. So all players are going to keep taking turns until they only have 1 card left in their hand, and then you're going to go into the scoring phase. So once all the gems have been distributed onto the board, it's going to look something like this. Now I've done this without any rhyme or reason, just to show you what it might look like. And you're going to start from location 1 and go all the way to location 1, 2, 3, 4, all the way through to location number 12, resolving them as you go and picking up tokens, potentially paying money to get the tokens as well. Taking the gems back into your supply if you haven't won the location, or putting them back into the general supply if you have won the location. And picking up tokens as you go, with the idea of collecting tokens to build onto this area here. And so let's say I had 2 gun tokens. I could pay those 2 gun tokens and then put my little guy on there to show that I control that region. Now there's no limitations on who can be on locations, so you can have all people on locations if you want to. And as I said, you're going to be start using these to not only get the points, but to again, get an income of either gems or money, draw more cards, get those bonus red cards. Even ones like this will give you special powers by letting you skim from rather than just dropping 1 off at a time. You can actually go all the way down the line and skip spaces, which is a really powerful one. Ones here that make paying for the goods cheaper by 1, and ones that will impact on where the mafia boss is, which we didn't talk about. So whenever you control the region with a mafia boss, you get an additional one of those mob boss tokens, these ones here, which basically count as a wild, so they're particularly powerful. And that's basically how the game is going to work over 4 rounds. The person with the most victory points at the end by again controlling regions and controlling for each of these tokens you're going to get a point, and for each of the majority of the different stats you're going to get a point as well. So let's get into some final thoughts on Mafiozoo. So this is a pretty simple game, but it does do some things pretty well. So generally I like that Rudiger Dorn mechanism, start somewhere, drop things off along the way. And I haven't seen that used in an area majority style game like this before. Yeah, I've seen it in an area control style game like Robin Knights. But this one, you have that gamble of, how much am I going to invest in this particular location? How badly do I need that token to move to the next location that I want to go to on the map up here? So there is that good tension and that competition to get to particular locations. Specifically, if they have that straight up, winner token. So ones like this where you need to be first place, that is a pretty much all or nothing style, competition there. Where as the ones with the money, yeah, you can go to those locations and just pay a bit of money in order to get that prize. And sometimes you even want to do that. You don't want to be the winner because, again, you're going to get the reward just by paying, which you might have enough money anyway. So there is that freedom and flexibility there, and it's not so zero-sum in terms of all or nothing. So it's quite nice to have a blend of the two. Some you need to win, but some you can still have the option just to pay. There's also these other ones that are always kind of available to have 2 gems and get the money. So it's nice to know that you're not really competing with other people there, but you are wasting your turns, or not wasting your turns, but spending your turns and gems in order to get that prize. But at least it's a banker and you can use it for future turns. And that also works in the way that the things are resolved in, because you might need number 7, because number 7 is going to give you money in order to pay for a later one. So, number 9 here needs money, it needs 5 money to get one of these mob boss tokens, and therefore you could use that previous location in order to pay for it, which is quite cool. So it has that domino effect of, need to do this one, to do this one, to do this one, all with that idea and the competition of trying to get into the particular locations that you want, because you might desperately be in need for some of these rings, and therefore the competition is going to be hot for those particular locations like this one. But again, you've got that contingency of maybe going for the mob boss or going for these wild tokens. So yeah, there's always options and flexibility, but again, the competition is there, which is what you want with a game like this. Yes, you are going to be quite heavily influenced by the cards you have in your hand, but you'll be surprised with how much of the board you can cover, even if you aren't particularly interested in a particular character. I might not be interested in taking this particular location, but it's going to be connected to some other ones that I will be interested in. So I can just leave one there and therefore spread straight into other ones that I might be, again, more interested in and trying to fight over. And managing your hand is also quite interesting because, yeah, you want to put things onto the board, but you need to know when to sacrifice cards in order to take more gems back into your supply to keep you going for future turns. So mechanically, the game makes sense. Everything ties together nicely. Get the majorities here, get the tokens, and in order to build the buildings here, which, yeah, very logical, simple stuff. Now, something I think is completely tacked onto the game are these tokens here. I don't know why these aren't just straight up victory points. There are locations of the board. Now, let's say, take 2 of these tokens, either face up or face down, depending on which ones you want. But I don't know why they just aren't straight up victory points and just apparent to all the different players. There's some very simple majority bonus. If you have to say the most trees here, then you're going to get an additional point at the end of the game. It just feels like a bit of a fuss for no reason at all. And again, I would have preferred it if it was just a bit more clean and just say, take 2 victory points from the supply. Additionally, I didn't really like these red cards here, because once you've done all the allocation of the rewards, when you get to number 4 in this example, somebody could just say, you know what, I played number 4 here, therefore I'm going to jump you and therefore take that reward. It just feels a bit abrupt, and it feels a bit like, aha, take that-ish. And I don't know, it just felt a bit jarring, because this is quite puzzly, and mapping things out accordingly is quite satisfying. But then when that's completely thrown under the bus by just a lucky card draw, it just seems a bit deflating and a bit abrupt. Now, the game does only take 4 rounds, and those 4 rounds do go by pretty rapidly, so it's a quite fast game, and it offers quite a lot of gameplay for an hour experience, so that's quite nice. It's nice, succinct. I'm generally involved in the gameplay, always trying to consider what you're going to do next, how you're going to manage those cards, and where you can reach, etc. Which buildings you're going to go to next and unlock. As you go, are you going to start a new road? Are you going to keep barreling into these harder regions in the middle here? So yeah, I quite like that as you go. Unlocking powers and unlocking income has a nice degree of, I suppose, a small degree of engine building to it. Now, something that I think works against the game is the lack of replayability and kind of modularity, because every game, this is going to be in the exact same orientation. There's no variability or capability to mix things up here. It's always going to feel pretty static. And maybe once you've got an idea in your head on what you do each game, then you're going to keep following that path. So it feels a bit samey, and I think this game is somewhat hamstrung by its replayability. And that also applies to the different locations here. Yes, you can mix up these things here. So 1 minute there, pay for it, and the next minute you have to be the majority holder. But again, these locations are always going to be in the same places, always going to be attached to the same characters. Whereas if that was more variable, it might work more, or it might be a bit more life in the game. I understand why they do it, because some characters like this here let you put 2 tokens on a particular other character. So there is that kind of synergy between the locations, but I think it could have easily been fixed and tweaked so that each game is different. Now, the player interaction, as you'd expect, is a big part of the game. You are fiercely competing with the other players to control these regions. And when it comes to the majority holder, yeah, that is utmost fierce. If you really need that particular token, then the competition is going to be hot. However, I will say, with these locations that needed money, well, I like the idea that you do have that ability to pay for it. I never really felt that money was tight in this game. Because of the cash injection you get each round, I played this a few times now, and not once did I struggle to pay to get the good if I'm not the winner. So I think it would have been better if the money was a bit tighter and a bit harder to manage and get, rather than always having the option to pay. The production of Mafiozoo is generally good. You've got this enormous board here that looks nice and clean. You can clearly see what all these symbols do and things. I suppose the only big issue in terms of the production is that the money is paper money, which is, a bit dated now. It doesn't feel very high quality. Kind of feels a bit old. But all the tokens and things are good. The gems are nice. Artwork is quite nice as well. If you don't mind this kind of silly mafia anthropomorphic animals setting, it's fine. It's certainly well illustrated. The tokens are decent. They don't feel cheap or anything. So yeah. Apart from the paper money, the production is generally good, and I think the game looks nice in general. So, final thoughts on Mafiozoo. I like the game. I think it's a pleasant experience. However, I do think it does have massive limitations on how many times you can enjoy it, because each experience kind of feels the same, if I'm honest. And that is a bit of a problem for me. I've played this a few times now. I've got no real incentive to try it again. I found myself always following the same paths on here, and not really trying or having the scope or capability to try anything new and different. So it would have been nice if you could mix them up, and these you can mix them up as well. It just feels like a bit static, and each time you play is going to be the same. But I do really love that key Rudiger Dorn method of taking things, dropping them off along the way. And I know this game is a twist on an older game called Louis XIV, which I haven't played, and I'd really love to play, because I really do. I'm not sure what the differences are between the two. But I think there's a lot of potential to be had in this system with an area control game. So I think this has a lot I like. It's probably 70% there, but because it is so static and it's a little bit too light for me, I just don't feel like it's got enough grit and enough hook to keep me coming back to it. So yeah, I think it does what it does well, and for maybe a gateway game or kind of a next level game, it's a good option. Yeah, generally. Area majority games, area control games are a massively saturated part of the board game market, and a lot of my favourite games use that mechanism to, I think, higher standard than this game. Now, again, I'm not using this to downplay this game. I know this is for a lighter audience, but I even feel that there's nicer lightweight area control games better than Mafiozoo. So it's one of those games where I think it's good, but I think it's lacking that something special to make it stand out. Despite using that system or that key mechanism to a good standard, I just feel like it could have been amplified and made even more of. So yeah, it's a bit of a near miss for me. I enjoyed my plays of it, but ultimately, as I said, there's no real incentive to come back to it once you've played this one a couple of times. So that is Mafiozoo by Rudiger Dorn.